Thanks for staying with us. Now, a few years back, the gospel music industry in Kenya was the it in the music industry. It boasted big names, big concerts, and big earners. Big companies jumped on the wave in a bid to market their brands, albeit through the clout that the gospel artists attracted. New talents cropped up and revolutionized not only the sound, but also the message and its mode of delivery. Lately, though, we have witnessed some artists decamping the gospel music scene. The big question now is, why now? What has changed? What are they chasing in the world of secular music? Sydney Chazima takes us through the genesis of all the predicaments that have befallen the gospel music industry. Here now is part one.
It is almost truism that the gospel ministry has changed quite a lot. They say music is the shorthand of emotion, and its evolution has stirred up quite a few emotions.
Unapoimba mambo ya kutukuza Mungu, jua kwamba ni Mungu aliye hai na ni Mungu ambaye ni mtakatifu anaye istahili heshima zake.
Wao wanaangazia mapato. Wao wanaangalia watapata nini kutoka kwa waimbaji.
Gospel ya saizi si gospel. You cannot compare a gospel artist wa sahi na wa kitambo.
With the industry at crossroads, can the gospel ministry find its way back to the cross?
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the gospel truth.
In the beginning, there was the Word, and with it, I made music. I felt in my heart that I was created to do this. I did it for Him, He who gifted me with a steadfast heart and a soulful voice and a choice of words. I did it to heal, to help, to convert, to give hope. I was filled with a higher power. I was pure. I didn't care for worldly desire. I was sure of the path I'd taken.
For centuries, music has had a powerful influence on worship. Gospel music, as is known today, drew from the ancient Jewish inventory where music was strictly devotional and non-participatory. It only included simple refrains, but towards the end of the Middle Ages, a Protestant movement spearheaded by Martin Luther started questioning the traditions the church had followed for centuries.
Martin Luther, he was a person who sang, full of the Holy Spirit, interpreted the Bible, and also wrote so many books on scripture, like the commentaries that we have today.
From then, congregants were allowed to sing in unison. Then came in the chorales, where the choir and the congregants sang together. This genre of music would years on catch on in churches in East Africa and form the backbone of the mainstream gospel music scene. Solo acts emerged around the late 80s. Faustin Munishi was among the first artists to take this unmarked path. His success opened doors for others, and choirs disintegrated as a result. The IFC JERICHO choir, one of the most popular groups at the time, was the first to face the music, but from the broken up pieces emerged successful solo talents like Mary Atieno, Japheth Kasanga, and Abel Amunga. Since then, music has become more personalized, more tailored towards fulfilling the spiritual needs. With time, gospel music began to blend secular sounds. Pete Odera is regarded as one of the country's first crossover artists.
So whereas there was this commercial aspect of music, contemporary gospel music industry was almost non-existent.
Open up your eyes, you will realize.
So at that time there were choirs. That music was all that we had in terms of reference. So if you grew up listening to pop music, Michael Jackson and James Ingram and Tabule and Franco, there was no reference. But I had this idea, if I will take this kind of music with the modern beat, this upbeat thing, I will reach my generation.
To spread his vision, he teamed up with other like-minded musicians and formed a band called Heart. But Heart could not easily win over the heart of the church.
I was called a devil worshipper, misleading the young people by very prominent Christians at the time. And we were banned from KBC. We were banned. The Fellowship of Christian Unions wrote circular letters, don't allow Heart as a band to come to these schools to sing. So we couldn't sing in various churches, certainly none of the big churches in Nairobi.
After failing to strike the right chord with the church, their next big task was how to make inroads into the music industry. Pete Odera and his group Heart decided to play it by the ear. They played their hearts out in school outreaches across the country. Soon enough, there were enough people dancing to their tunes.
All these schools that were going to do our youth outreach, they now had grown up, gone to university, and were now working in advertising companies. I think it was in '95 where sponsorship started to change, because in came FM stations. So you had Capital FM, Nation FM, and then eventually Metro. You know, Bob Kioko, who he had mentored and sang in Five Alive, was now a presenter at Capital FM. Caroline Mutoko. So there was people now we knew who were now in the corporate or in radio and media who now began to say, maybe we'll give these guys a chance.
Life goes on.
While they enjoyed some airplay on radio stations, they still confronted accusations from the church that their music reflected more worldly passions than heavenly desires. But they forged on, and years later, other young talents picked up their style.
Kakamega High School, as I've mentioned, it was very good in football. And I used to love football so much, and basketball.
The devil is tricky, is the master of tricks. Every time he just a mislead.
So during the soccer tournaments, that's when I would go by the pitch side and I would start rapping to encourage our school. So there was no microphone, there was nothing. So then they would just clap, and then you keep on rap. You clap, rap, clap, rap. So come Monday, I would have lost my voice. So I will talk like, nianza kuongea ni aje bana, Sydney, ukopoa. That's how Rafton now came in. They said that Smith bana, ule mse wa Rafton. Listen to this. Hey, youth man them skanking, youth man them high.
Roy Smith Mwatia, alias Rafton, exploded into the gospel scene with a unique style of gospel rap.
Let's call Jehovah.
That was influenced by Jamaica's popular music genre, dancehall or ragga.
The new generation, they will think of the gospel musician. But the guys who are there in the late 90s, they will tell you this was a very serious secular artist. To my single, wakati Rafton ushika microphone, kila dem tani ulia. Sasa that song is the one that terrorized the entire place, man. And in 2000, that's when I got born again. When I got born again, everyone was like, "Maze, kwani nini mbaya? Si wacha mchezo boss." Alikia aliniambia niaje, alikuwa na studio fulani, ilikuwa inaitwa Shama Boy. That's where we started recording the Mwikulu album.
Others took his cue. Daddy Owen, the Gospel Fathers, MOG Giuliani, Jimmy Gates, Willie Paul and Bahati, to name a few. The aim, they said, was to make God famous through their music. The gospel music scene exploded and the corporate world started taking notice.
The more I earn, the more I yearn for more. More women, more fame, more problems. I mingle with the devil, do the tango with angels. I giggle at sin. I've seen hell on this earth. I've seen hell on this path. By now, my purpose is a pile of ashes in the earth. I've undergone a rebirth. I'm picky with his commandments. It's the advent of new content. So show me the money. Show me the women, the fame, the booze. It may be alarming, but I'll hit snooze.
Pesa ujue ndio ina move na watu ndio tumepewa tukue nayo, lakini maandiko inatuambia mioyo yetu isiingiwe na hiyo tamaa.
Music as it is right now is becoming polarized because there are people who have also come in who want to make a living other than praising and singing to God.
There are women of God who prophesied and said one day gospel music will be the biggest. And the people who understand this prophecy, you talk to the guys like Akina Rafton, SK Blue, Daddy Owen, they knew the prophecy. They received the prophecy. They were told. That time they were not doing music for profits. Then there was a process. So there was a generation that understood the prophecy. There is a generation that went through the process. These are the people who tell you the price they paid for the gospel music.
As the new crop of talents in the gospel industry emerged, big corporate companies jumped on the wave. Fully dance. They lavished the artists with endorsements and also organized highly paying live events.
I think one of the first ever companies that sponsored an event was GSK, GlaxoSmithKline. And then the big thing now started to change when the first FM gospel station, which was Family, showed up. Suddenly, things exploded.
This I'm sure to my heart's core.
And you had all this music that before they had refused to play on the secular stations. Now you had a 24-hour radio station that was playing Kenyan music, Kenyan gospel music. So suddenly, what we did had legitimacy.
Yo, my name is DJ Ruff, and this is the Groove Awards 2018.
Companies and brands associated with key artists or gospel events to reach larger audiences around the country and the region.
Ladies and gentlemen, and the winner is...
From online platforms like Skizetunes, Spotify, Boomplay, YouTube, to the concerts and live gospel performances, gospel artists were guaranteed a decent paycheck.
Mungu ni mwaminifu, ni mwaminifu, ni mwaminifu.
So there are many ways an artist can make money. There are many, but I'll mention 5. Moja ni mashow.
Kuna vile unaweza alikwa mahali kwenda kuperform, then end of the performance ama kuperform wanakupatia kuna kakitu wanakupatia.
Wengine maudijo, polisi, ma CEO, ma MD, ma HUSTLER, ma hustler.
Ingine ni endorsement.
Then there's definitely selling of a merchandise. Like this is my merchandise. It's called Rafwear. This is my clothing line.
Ikiwa nitakuwa rubani.
Ingine ni royalties.
Niendeshe ndege ya air.
Once tumerecord our music here, we do what we call packaging. Kuna Boomplay ukiangalia. Kuna Spotify, kuna Amazon. So what we did as Still Alive is to make sure that msanii wetu akirecord, hii song iko everywhere. Ikiraise 2,000 another 1,000 and then 5,000 again, 10,000 YouTube huko uko na 5,000. End of the month, msanii uko na do poa.
If you go to Skiza right now as you speak, Safaricom, the top earners are gospel. Now that is not hearsay.
According to 2018 data by Safaricom, an estimated 11 million out of its 29 million subscribers then had registered for the SkizaTune service that housed over 132,000 tunes. In 2017, Safaricom disbursed a whopping 1.4 billion shillings as payout to artists through their content service providers. Gospel music artists were some of the biggest earners. But the more the money, the more the problems for the gospel ministry.
Seasons change, reasons fade, facade maintained, fame almost attained, a little money obtained, my spirit depraved of a purpose, I strayed, astray, I derailed. I still sang songs of praise but started spicing it up with a little secular, singular, secular in a regular gospel album. A dash of scandal to rattle the audience and cause a ripple of brand recognition. I grapple with my faith. An apple a day should keep the devil away, but didn't the devil use the apple to create our fall?
Unajua wakati tuko kwa shida, kila mtu akiwa na fix problem anaomba Mungu sana. But wakati Mungu amekubariki whatever, kila mtu Mungu anambariki. Unaona vitu zimeanza kuwa poa. Many people forget, anafikiria now I'm famous. I actually kumbuke the struggles.
I love being obsessed with fame. I love fame. I love being on the limelight. No wonder I think I'm the only musician, probably. Okay, I wouldn't be wrong if I called myself I'm the richest gospel artist in Africa.
So, anwas wamekuja wamekuta, you just sing gospel, boom, profits come. So they didn't have grounding, they didn't go through the process, they didn't have anything. And for them, their mentality was secular. For them, blessing is a car, blessing is fame.
Social media provided a new platform for the artists to influence their fan base. But it also added to the social and financial pressures.
Kila msanii anatafuta njia ile ya kutoa jina lake kuwa famous, ndio? For example, naweza taka kuwa famous kupitia msanii mkongwe. Na kuna mwingine atasema lazima nifanye scandal.
I've seen gospel artists who are gaining publicity through scandalizing their art and scandalizing their social lives and scandalizing. Unajaribu unaona ya kwamba utengeneze kiki. Ujaribu kutengeneza ni kama unapigana na mtu. Ni kama sijui umefanyana vipi na mkeo, sijui producer wako na mkeo wamekuwa na mambo. Yeah, it is because society kidogo generally imepotoka kidogo na kuna vitu watu wanataka kusikia.
You see, Chasing Cloud ilikuja juu, boss utakuwa faithful, unafanya genuine gospel, unafanya muziki clean, video fresh, life yako iko fiti, nobody cares about you. Then kuna msee hapa hivi, akona scandals, crisis, nini. Iyo day, sasa mnajua these are gospel event, ndo atakuwa ni kama the gospel artist na siku ya awards atapewa male artist of the year. So inakaa ni kama we don't award integrity, we award fame.
As gospel music courted more controversy, from sex scandals, backstabbings and rivalries, the singers courted more followers. Those with the largest following benefited from endorsements and advertising deals from the corporate world.
This idea is not new. This is 2,000 years old idea that some people have found a way to make money from the gospel. I don't think it's a bad thing necessarily to be paid for what you do, or that you will eat from the proceeds of your ministry. I think money being a motivator is a bad motivator for anything. Anything that's driven by avarice and the greed for for having wealth is going to be open to corruption.
This corruption then evolved into something even more forbidding.
Now a sailor on stormy seas, not even his son could make the aggravation cease. I'm at ease with sin. I no longer pretend to sing the gospel. My will has crumbled. I shuffle lyrics to simply rhyme, no message. I live on the fast lane. I don't care that I need gas for tomorrow. I'm using up my mileage, raking lives, planting seeds I won't acknowledge. My tone rings with deception. 8 sizes the clout. The more I have, the more I need. I battle with depression. My soul is malnourished from purpose deprivation. I'm sinking, sinking, sinking. My soul is shrinking, shrinking, shrinking.
Kuna mitundo ya duniani na kuna kumchezea Mungu.
Sometimes the music is very entertaining, but it lacks spiritual conviction.
Kufanya gospel music haimaanishi kwamba mtu ameokoka. Kuna wengine wanafanya kwamba hawajaokoka, unaelewa? Na kuna mwingine hajui neno.
Kuna song mimi najua, I don't know many lyrics, but KDF inaitwa Kula Neno. KDF, I think so. Sindio. You see, Mungu hawezi akakuwa KDF, bro. That's too low.
Like someone said, ata shaitwa vute God hawezi kuwa the most high. You know, Mungu hajakuwa the most high, alivuta God. So you see, that's a person using what he knows in his environment about highness, but he doesn't understand that this highness is sovereignty and supremacy from scripture revelation.
Miaka yangu haitoshani na tuseme the late Angela Chibalonza, right? Huyo alikuwa hapo time yake, walikuwa wanafanya gospel yao hiyo time hivyo kivyao. You don't expect Willy Paul akuje pia afanye vitu zilikuwa zinafanyika hiyo time, unaona? Nikikuja nitakuja nifanye kivyangu venye mimi naielewa. Nipo kuwa na rafiki kama Yesu. So mimi nikiangalia nikipiga hesabu zangu ni every 4 years. So hii time tumetoka before Gengeton ingie, tulikuwa kwa period ya dance. Before dance tulikuwa period ya Simba, who is Diamond. Na hiyo sound yao ya Tanzania ilikuwa imeshika, yani everywhere is that sound.
Wanamuziki wa saizi ama vijana wa siku hizi ambao wanaimba gospel wamebadilisha kwa kuiga mtindo fulani, mtindo wa mwanamuziki fulani, unaona, wa bongo kule.
Hapo ndani kuna mapeni lipako.
Someone ana call. Anakuambia ni hapo ni still alive. Yes, ni still alive. Yeah, I want to sing. Niambia okay, karibu sana. Sasa mimi nafanya kitu naitwa gospel bongo. So hii kitu ilikuwa inanisumbua sana, gospel bongo ni nini? It's a new style ama ni nini? So ambia but explain to me. Lakini mimi naimba sasa kama wasanii wa bongo lakini gospel. Unaona? Unajua mtu akikwambia hivyo means anasikiza bongo sana.
Then kukakuja dance styles. So OD kaingia hapo. Dance imeshika mashinani. Ziguembe kaingia hapo. Bazokizo ikaingia. Dance style. Vimbada ikaingia dance style. And then hiyo period ikaisha ikakuja Gengeton. So Gengeton ikiingia kuna kitu ili happen. Kulikuwa na separation. There was a time in this country ungejua gani secular gani gospel, right? So kuna time sound ilikuwa iko almost the same for secular and gospel. When Gengeton came, ikakuwa clear that he see gospel. Na kila gospel artist alijaribu kutengeneza gospel song inakaa Gengeton did not succeed because that is a worldly sound.
Basi wewe wanani, niambie wanani.
As the lines between the worldly and the heavenly became even more blurred, some other gospel artists indulged in a different kind of different.
Picture your favorite musician, even more specifically, your favorite gospel artist, going about their performances, but this time with a twist. While they are out singing and dancing for the Most High, some question if they themselves are, well, high.
Gospel ministry inaenda kwa hii level. My friend, tuachane ile maneno ya zamani. Mungu, Yehova. Mtu anapenduka hivyo. Hii itaisha. Saa hii inakuwa gospel ndani ya comedy. Lazima ufanye comedy.
So my song was #1 on trending. So and everybody was looking for me. State House was calling me. People were calling me there. They were telling me, we were looking for the song, and even we had started a panel to select songs, but now we have settled for your song. So you come to Nakuru. We have a rally. From there, I was invited to State House, but it was not by choice, but circumstances would force me.
To the State House.
Ni mjinga tu, yule mtu mjinga tu anaweza jishikanisha mashida yake na Ben Gidai. Kwa sababu mimi niliimba wimbo, wewe uikubali ama uikatae. If you don't work for yourself and you put blame on Ben Gidai, wewe utakufa masikini baya sana.
You've been watching The Gospel Truth. We're taking a quick break, but when we come back, you'll hear about the exodus from music based on scripture to highly entertaining music that has no biblical substance. Plus, the scandals. Stay right where you are.
Meanwhile, a part of the Christian community was frowning upon the gospel without the conviction.
When you look at most of the secular artists, the content of their songs is not worship, it is praise. And that's why if we were to analyze the Sauti Sol song Ananipenda Leo Kuliko Jana theologically, it's not accurate. When you say Mungu ananipenda leo kuliko jana, it shows that God is a changing God. But the Bible says he's the same yesterday, today and forever.
Mpaka kuwe na mpaka wa kuonyesha, unajua ukiokolewa, umeokolewa na kukombolewa. Kuna kuokoka na kuna kukombolewa.
Angela Mwandanda, also known as Shinde, a former member of the all-girl band Tattoo, identifies as a born-again Christian, but she's not a gospel singer.
Does it make me less Christian because I have chosen not to call myself a gospel artist? I don't think that's what it should be. We're very hell-bent on assuming that being a gospel artist or being a born-again Christian is now a code of conduct. You have been given a code of conduct. This is how you're supposed to behave.
Was it you that turned the water into wine?
That's not what Christianity is about as far as I am concerned. Yeah? It's about the relationship you have with God. And the relationship we have with God will require you to behave in a certain way, whether it is in the secular industry or it's in the gospel industry.
What matters is the personal relationship between an individual and his God.
As the sermon against the invocation of secular imagery in the gospel ministry was revived, other artists caught up in the now fine lines between the two worlds abandoned the industry altogether.
Mimi ni mtoto wa Mungu. Hiyo haijai change. Relationship yangu na Mungu ni ile ile. The only thing imechange ni the kind of music nafanya sahi. Na niko na reason ya kila kitu nafanya kwa maisha yangu.
Artists Willie Paul and Kelvin Kioko Mbuvi, alias Bahati, received a fair amount of backlash for their sudden turn from gospel to secular music.
I am so much obsessed with Will Paul and Bahati because they are thieves and they are conmen. They are conmen because the car Will Paul drives, ile music aliimba Mungu sitalia mimi, ndio watu walisubscribe akapata pesa akanunua. Immediately alinunua hiyo gari na pesa za Wakristo, alitoroka akaenda kwa club.
Many of these people know very well it is very difficult to make it in the secular industry. So how do you come into secular but indirectly? So they're hibernating. They're using gospel music as a hibernation center, so that when they are fully blown, they've blossomed fully, that is when now their true identity comes out.
So unapata hiyo peer pressure, wase wanakubali kitu fulani, wanakubali mtindo fulani, wanakubali beat fulani ikuja hapo ndani, lakini sasa hiyo maneno hata ikubali, so wanataka hiyo beat. Sasa atafanya aje huyo msanii? Lazima a change words, na hike word moja ya kushikilia injili. So anaweka hallelujah ndani, lakini unapata content sio hiyo.
Regular people will look at this music video and say, where is Jesus in this thing?
The secular system is about flossing. It's about showing what we have. And it's about intimidation. The gospel system is about the message of a man who died on the cross.
Those who've quit gospel music have depicted themselves as lonely martyrs, banned from the Christian kingdom.
Nikiwa nafanya gospel ya Yesu. Watu wa Yesu walinipiga mawe vibaya sana. Unaona? Mpaka wakanifukuza kwa kanisa.
I discovered also this gospel thing is where I call it witchcraft. This is where people behave like more than a muganga, Because this way kuna a lot of jealousy.
The secular people were showing me more love. Yeah. Like wananipigia bro unaendeleaje. Kwanza cream big up alikuwa ananipigia sana kwanza bro unaendeleaje. Najua vile una feel. Una get. So nilikuwa na get more love and support from the other side than from my side.
Some of the nastiest people I met in my life have really just been Christians.
There are award ceremonies. Walitumia hizo kujaribu kunimaliza. Yani ulikuwa unaona clearly huyu ana deserve hii, but huyu ananyang'anywa, wanapatia huyu. Yani hadi ushaisikia kwa umati, kwa crowd, hadi watu wanasema hapana. Unaona vitu kama hizo, unapata unakuwa mistreated, wewe ndio wasona kuongelea vibaya.
I attended a gospel rally ya mzae fulani, preacher, anahubiri good stuff, real stuff, and nilisikia venye kararua gospel artists. Asema, why can't they just dress like us, like this, as in mbona wasivae madhuti kama hizi zetu? How can somebody call himself at Rafton? Is that a name? Ni jina ya mbwa ama ni jina? You get my point?
You say, man, these guys can't be Christians. That was the thing. What do you mean they can't be Christians?
But amidst the questions on their morality, there were even bigger questions about what was really driving them away from the church.
Walikuwa wananinyima gigs. Na hiyo time ujue, yani ina depend tu kwa hiyo music. Hiyo ndio inanijenga kama Willy Paul, na ndio inanilisha na inalisha familia yangu. Wakaninyang'anya hata hiyo kitu ya kulipa bills na kufanya hizo vitu zote. So nikasema, sawa, enye itabidi tu God and understand. Sitaka hapa nikiangalia wasee wakijaribu kuniua. I'm too young to die.
Kenya inherited a very austere and legalistic view of the Christian experience. And which meant that unless you aligned with a specific kind of thinking where life and culture was concerned, you wouldn't be accepted.
God has been, I kind of even feel sorry for him. He's been painted as this person who is he's uptight and he's just doing this and he's just there with a match waiting to light you guys on fire on the day of when he decides to come.
The church, to some extent, has not metamorphosized with changing times. Yesu alikuwa akienda a different place, he would preach a message that resonates with that environment and resonates with that particular situation.
And I remember sitting down, Fred Obachi Machoka interviewing me and saying, why do you go to pubs? You sing in church, what's wrong? And I said, listen, it's the sick who need a doctor. I'm going to the place where the people are not yet reached.
Lakini ukienda huko, uvae silaha za kutosha, usungukwe na utukufu wa Mungu, kinywa chako kikawe moto kuliko yule, ukamshinda umlete pande hii.
The church preaches about forgiveness, and I always say the church does not forgive. It's one thing that haitawahi kubali. Nilienda magigs ma church mob nikifukuzwa. Nimefika mimi niko hapo backstage na ngoja niitwe show, ama niko hapo kwa crowd na ngoja niitwe show. Na ngoja bana siitu. Na ngoja siitu na kama naambo aje. Basi anasema hapa huwezi imba leo. I'm like, kwa nini? Ati scandal yako ni kubwa sana. Itabidi ujitoe. I'm like, if you're chasing me away from the church and this is the place where I'm supposed to find love, ndaishia. Nilifikiria, sinifanya hata secular bana, nijibambe bana, at least nikienda pale 1824 watanikubali.
Unajua, when people try to put the church under the bus, I think they mistake they do is placing the church as the four walls instead of the church being me and you. Because mimi nikikosea, I'm sure si reason. Hata pasi akikosea unakaga chini na pasi. Muna reason yeye anakupatia venye ana feel ama unajua. But ukitoka huko nje, kitu ya kwanza unasema chacha haikunipenda, but unasahau like mli hata have time ya ku reason, maybe ukaambia kitu na do si poa. Na maybe hata it was coming from a biased point of view. But is he ama maybe kama hata unafiliwa pasi alikosea, is he the only person mwenye unaweza ita church?
Kila mtu akajirudie. Sisemi kwamba mimi ni mtakatifu, hata mimi bado najioji. Lakini kila mwanadamu akajirudie, akajifikirie, haone kweli kabisa Yesu akaja leo nitakuwa wapi.
Generally there is no love. As in si upatana kukiwa na show.
How many musicians, big musicians unakumbuka wa kitambo walitry kushika artist wadogo mkono? None.
I think that's what they're saying, there is a gap.
Yes. So kila mtu amefight. So ukifight ukijipata pale juu, masata hii itabidi uende kama hooligan huko.
When these young people come to the inner circle, they begin to see our nakedness. The generation of those who are supposed to be mentors also failed. And instead of accepting their failure and using our failure as scars to train these ones, we began to rebuke these ones, and then they are looking at us and they are like, Buddha, wewe kwanza hata sikuona ukifanya harusi. Tunajooni wife yako lakini hakuna wedo tulisikia. Na wewe ndo hapo unanikemea ukiniambia story ya madem ni no.
They are the reason nilitoka nikasema sawa.
Una haja gani nikae ndani wakati kila mtu anitaki ndani? Ni nani huyo hataki ukae ndani? Ni nani huyo? Hebu sema wili. Si ni nani na yule nani? Alafu nani akaambia nani?
Let me do kitu na feel inaweza nisaidia kwa life yangu. Sasa hii imenisaidia all of a sudden, kila mtu ako like, oh, we miss your gospel. Come back to Jesus. Kitu ya kwanza, niendeleeni kumiss gospel na kuniambia come back to Jesus, mwache kuniambia cause sijawahi toka kwa Jesus. Na venye mimi ongea na Mungu wangu, sisi ndio tunajua.
There are also questions about if DJs and what songs they choose to play played a part in the exodus from the gospel ministry.
Most of the times hata ngoma zenye unacheza kwa clubs zenye ni gospel aziko ile deep. Unajua ngoma za gospel Jesus nini yani aziko mentioned sana, ni kitu tu juu kila mtu ana acknowledge Mungu. Kama imetaja tu story ya God nini, haina zile vitu deep yani. Hiyo ni ngoma tu kali, anybody can listen to it. Kama say for example hizo magengeton, watu wameanza kutoa gospel za hizo magengeton. Juu unajua my youth wengi watasikiza.
Sikizeni magadea, hakuna kitu mnaniambia. Hiyo song ya Reckless naitoa, mnasikia? Mmeniharibia album ati mnaniambia siwezi eka gengeton. Na wala wanaituaje? Wakenya wanadai ni kiki. Basi kujeni muikule, sawa?
So kama uko na ngoma inakaa kama hizo, kuna most likely inaweza yako hapo ndani hata kama ni gospel.
Na ukienda kujaribu moja imate.
Kama ile time nikifanya ile song inaitwa Vigelegele ile walisema hiyo ni song ya club. Wakakataa kucheza. I think the only person alikufia hiyo song ni DJ Sadik. Na yeye ndiye alifanya hiyo song ikaanza kuchezwa. And it was all over. Nikakuja nikafanya ile Willy Pose. Ikashika all over. Yeah, but hao walikuwa na fight.
Son of Nations.
If I don't do it, there are other DJs who will do it. Maybe sound ya muziki yako sound muziki yako ni poa, but that's not the sound I'm looking for. So you may end up mistaking na kusema huyo ni cartel ama huyo anadu nini. But in the essence, me, I mean, I'm just in my work, you're also in your work. So ni kujua tu sound yangu ina fit wapi best. Na I'm sure hautakosa watu watacheza muziki yako na wakusupport sana.
Lynette Munyali, alias Size 8, who switched from secular to gospel, however, believes the public also shares in the blame. She told NTV on the phone that some of her music with just catchy...
We've refused as the church to accept that there's a place for entertainment. And as a result, that vacuum has been filled by people who have evil intentions.
Gospel Music Award ceremonies and events were a cash cow thanks to the generosity of the big corporates. And this money was the root of all the evil that followed.
One of the guys who used to organize the biggest event in gospel industry opened a secular radio station, and he began to do secular events. And he's the same guy. I was in that meeting as an artist. I was looking up to him. He's the same guy who told us God told him to come to Kenya and do gospel. Unajua kiaka God ni noma. And so we are seated here around 100 artists, and you're already successful, and we are seeing you are doing gospel, you're doing clean content, and we get inspired. We're like, there's hope. I say, kuna hope. And then the next thing, you open a secular station, you begin to bring secular artists, you're advertising alcohol. You can imagine what will happen to these 100 who used to look up to you. And I'm not saying it's good to look up to men, but some are men of weak faith. Naturally, watafeel, hii kitu ilikuwa biz kutoka day one. So msituambia hapa story ya ministry.
On the other side of the coin, artists were locked in a battle over rhymes without dimes, with organizations that collect royalties on their behalf. And a light pass is a heavy curse.
And what killed me about MCSK was you will see very many people meeting and you're not seeing musicians. Most of those AGMs zingepelekwa nje ya Nairobi. Intentionally, because one they knew musicians were very passive. Walikuwa tu watu wakupenda raha. So ungesikia kuna AGM Ganze. Sasa Ganze ni wapi? Many a times they will do that and pass bills that will favor them.
Waliniambia Lingala poa nifunge mushipi juu ya tumbo na nijue
In one song utapata 4 rights. There are many, but hapa Kenya zile ziko kubwa ni 4 rights. Ule aliimba the performer ama akacheza gitaa ama akacheza nini ako governed by PRSK. PRSK inamaanisha Performers Rights Society of Kenya. So huyo ni performer.
na sina kitu ya kusema. Mimi nasema Lingala.
So mimi kama sauti yangu ilitumika hapo, mimi ni performer. So mimi nakuwa governed by PRSK.
Tunasifu Yesu juu, Lingala Yesu wangu.
The producer si ni wawili. Kuna ule alimake track na kuna ule alilipa. Si wote ni producer. Mmoja anaitwa track producer, mmoja anaitwa executive producer. So hao wako governed by CAMP. CAMP ni Kenya Association of Music Producers. And then kuna mwenye aliandika na ka-arrange, the author, the writer. Huyo ako governed by MCSK, Music Copyright Society of Kenya.
There are two systems of payment in the CMO's world. There's the general distribution. General distribution is standard. The fact that you're a musician and you're a member, you're entitled to that 2.5 per year. But now there is that what we call scientific distribution. Scientific distribution, this is when now you cannot say Willie Paul earns the same as Sydney, who has just begun singing the other day. So you are a member, yes, Willie Paul is a member. But he has more songs and more hits than you. So scientific, this is when all the data and the analytics will be brought onto the the CMO, then they will do ratings. Waseme ya Willie ilichezwa mara 7 kwa siku, ya Sydney ilichezwa mara 2 kwa siku. So if it's 5 bob times 10, how much is that? That is 50 bob. Where it was 5 bob times 1, where it's 5. So per day Willie is earning 50, you are earning 5. So in a year, Willie will have 5M, you will have 1M.
Hizi do mnatumia watu ni do za nini? Ni credit ama nini? Cheki buda, sawa? Na hizo pesa huko. Ukiangalia Willy Paul ni mtu wa kulipua 4,000.
The Music Copyright Society of Kenya, MCSK, recently came under fire for underpaying artists. Ruben Kigame went on a tirade on Twitter detailing how he gets very little from the copyright societies, despite his songs enjoying airplay at public events and even in military bands. He bitterly quipped that no government representative or those from copyright societies should get a chance to speak at his funeral.
The only issue we are having is they manipulate those data. There is no transparency. You can't get back-end info.
The officials diverted monies that were meant for members and used it for administrative costs. And some of these costs were in reality beneficial to them.
You're just called and you're told, Bwana, Sydney, shika 7,000. You understand? You understand?
In December 2020, MCSK lost its license to process royalties on behalf of artists. The Kenya Copyrights Board said MCSK had failed to adhere to its licensing conditions, failed to submit a complete authenticated list of members, and also didn't upload member works into the National Rights Registry.
We really had to form associations. And we came up as musicians with many associations. We pushed this thing back to the parliamentary committee, led by then Honorable Jamle Kamau. And the 3 CMOs were summoned to come and present their financial reports. The chairman almost cried. The members of parliament almost cried because what does the law state? Kekobo states that every CMO has to distribute 70% of their collected finances. 30% is to be used for local running of the office. By the time we were going to the parliamentary committee and they were presenting their reports, it was discovered, these people were distributing around only 20%. The 70 or 80 were being embezzled.
On the criminal aspect, the files are with the Office of the Director of Criminal Investigations. We expect we shall have a report, hopefully leading to arrests.
Mimi nitakwambia leo kuna watu wanaendesha Mercedes. Kuna watu wamejenga makeja na jasho ya wasanii na walikuwa wanatusalimia wanatuambia Bwana asifiwe.
All right, we've got to take another break.
Mimi nauliza wachungaji sahi, reach out to gospel artists. It's time we came together. Wakati kanisa ilikuwa na gospel artists na kila gospel artist alikuwa na kanisa, hii kitu ilikuwa inasonga. Wakati tuliacha kanisa, hii kitu isongi.
I have to nurture people. My guys around me, when you wadogo wanaingia production, I have to show them the way.
Certainly the youth needs that foundation, but in order for the church to provide for the youth also have to be willing to follow that leadership.
You know, you have to have a teachable spirit for someone to teach you. You have to have the heart of a mentee for someone to mentor you.
People should take it upon themselves and own whatever they are doing and not blame it on the church. If you're not able to resolve the issues even with the church, which is the people, the community around you, then when do you take to change?
I've seen churches in town that are having programs like Roots. If you visit any serious church in Nairobi right now, utapata hiyo church iko na wing ya youth, imeunda sound, stage, lights ya kusupport mfanye concert zenu hapo. We are still echoing these words. Welcome church. Church isipo kusupport, usitoke kwa Christ, enda ile church ingine. But play within the kingdom.
Nasikia mtoto wa Diana umeroroa. Tuacheni kukua influenced by the world. The more the world is the world, the more the church must be the church. So lazima ikuwe clear. Kama hii ngoma yako nikisikia najiuliza, ni gospel ama ni secular, then si gospel.
for the gospel industry, especially now the younger guys who are there, is that they've had the misfortune of being in an industry when social media has been so rampant, you understand? If they're going to have a difficult time or they're going to fall short or not fully represent what the gospel is about, then they have all the eyes looking at them.
And I think time will tell. I think sometimes we judge some of our young people too soon. You know, a 23-year-old is going to make a mistake. Wait until he's 33. 10 years later, if a 33-year-old still makes the same mistakes he was making when he was 23, then we can say, ay, bana, you know, this is not the way.
Like the prodigal son, God is very loving. And he's still waiting for them to come back. The doors are still very much open.
Who knows that Willie Paul tomorrow will turn around and say, my life is a testimony of how I turned around. I went this way and I went this way and I turned around.
So wale washatoka au wametoka, cry over them. Na hii discussion ya nani yako gospel, ashatoka, si amewaambia.
God is now raising his own. Ile dependency ya units na TJs inaisha. The artists that are coming up are very independent. And they are also going through the process. Meaning that by the time God and our launch, they will not need a DJ or they will not need a certain unit.
Unajua, we are beyond that space yenye tulikuwa na feel like lazima Moses atupraie as the children of Israel ndo maombi isikike. Sasa God anasema come to me.
Tuingie kwa discussion ya so how do we get the gospel industry moving? Tuache copy sound ya dunia, to have sound yetu which is a church sound.
We are entering into a place of you are born again, you are full of the Spirit of God, and you are doing this thing as a ministry. Pesa inakufuata nyuma.
Lakini watu wote wawekwe kwa msingi mmoja, alafu sasa kuwekwe vile wanaweza kukontroliwa. Akipita kiwango kama ni kwamba anaibisha kanisa la Mungu, anatafutwa tu na anaitwa anaambiwa from today na serikali na.
That is a model that is in Tanzania. You have heard of Diamond and Harmonize and others who have been punished by BASATA. There have been issues about KFCB's mandate, I think, which is being handled in a legislative way. But I don't think we will still be at the level where BASATA can tell you don't sing for 6 months or someone new. And
we cannot legislate nor force people to change their behavior. I think that is something that people must willingly do.
All the CMOs will be run in the same way, and they will be checked at least twice a year for the purposes of ensuring that they are within the policy, the law, and the regulations. An artist who is registered in a CMO, who has music that is on play, should be able to expect a decent amount of money monthly if we run this thing very well.
I think there's a place for wholesome entertainment, and it's a place that needs to be redeemed by the church.
So a church without a vision for the future is not going to exist.
Mungu akikuita itikia mara moja, tena wacha kujifanya eti Mungu ndio naye. Mpikie makoti chini, inamisha kichwa, mpepee mikono chini, uanze kuwapua. Ongaro tutiko, ongaro digital.
There's a disaffection at organized religion because of what they've seen in the system failures. This is not just a church problem. This is a problem in our society, and we need to address it as a society.
But I know for sure that it's darkest before dawn. I know for sure that the rising sun shall light up my darkness. I know that he will fill up this void I feel inside with hope, that he will hold my hand and pull me from the muck I wallow in, that he shall set my heart right, that I will remember why I started singing in the first place. I shall turn back to him, sing for him, save souls for him, give hope for him. Like a phoenix, I shall rise from this pile of ashes. I shall shake off my past, for it doesn't define me. I shall set my eyes on the horizon of salvation. I shall spread my wings, flutter them in the wind, and embark on the first page of my Genesis.
If you give a little more than you take, and if you try to fix more than you break, if you're the kind who takes the time to help a stranger in the rain, there's a place for people like you. If you stand up for those down on their knees and lend a voice to those who cannot speak, if you shine a little light, give sight to the ones who've lost their way, there's a place for people like you. I've heard up there the streets are made of gold, and when you get there, there's a hand to hold. I believe when your days down here are through, there's a place up there for people like you. Sydney Chazima for the Gospel Truth NTV.